Daniel Boardman also joining us. Daniel spoke with us this morning as well. We were talking about, Daniel, and I recall you said, this isn't going to stop. It's only going to get worse. And on camera, what has now been seen, and this is disgraceful, of devotees, moving to policemen there. Cops are supposed to do their job and protect these people. They're asking questions of the policemen about why they did not do anything. Why did they choose not to do anything? And the cops, clearly, as we see in these videos, have no answers.
Yeah, it's really bad. I want to add, because I agreed with the previous guest here. You just made one small mistake, and it's a good one. There was a second Canadian MP, Kevin Vaughn, who released a statement, named the Khalistanis as being Khalistanis, and then being the perpetrators, and the Hindus being the victims. He is an independent, but there was a second MP. So that's the silver lining here. Now, why would the cops do this? It's the way that Canada is run, and you have to remember, the Hindu mondirs and temples and organizations did release a letter, an open letter to the cops, just earlier this week, demanding increased security because of the threats from Khalistani extremists to their temples, and specifically around Diwali. So this was a coordinated effort by Sikhs for Justice and Panoon, who said they wanted to do these things on these dates to these people. And why did the police not do anything? Well, it's a whole systemic failure in Canada for a lot of reasons. But you have to understand, the Hindus aren't the only community in Canada that's being beaten and abused, and the cops are letting it happen. We have a full two-tier justice system is an easy way to say it. It's a bit more complicated. It's sort of like a quantum justice system that sometimes exists, sometimes doesn't exist. But you can burn down churches in Canada. Over 100 have been burned, and Trudeau's fine with that. You can shoot up synagogues. Justin Trudeau was fine with that. And you can hack Hindu temples. So there's sort of groups that are perceived not to be in line with general liberal voting policies. The fairness of the state doesn't really apply to them. And then also on the streets, the way the police are actually trained in like de-escalation in this, they're told in Canada that
Yes.
they should sort of de-escalate things. And what this actually means is, if you look at what the police briefings are, is if they see someone as being a threat that might cause a disturbance. But what this
Daniel,
means is
I'm just going to come back to you in a moment from now. We have, in fact, more videos that I've been pouring in. We'll put that out for our viewers. Let's take a look. Trudeau cops attacking Hindu devotees in these pictures, with the police now going on a rampage. Let's take a look at these pictures coming in.
He's a king! No! He's a king! He's a king! No, please, no! Please, no! That's not right! That's not right! He's a king! He's a king! He's a king! He's a king! That's wrong! 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 No, but he's a king! He's a king! He's a king! No! He's a king! He's a king! No, please, no! Please, no! That's not right! That's not right! He's a king! He's a king! He's a king! He's a king! That's wrong! 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 That's wrong!
And Daniel continues to be with us. Daniel, instead of, in fact, taking on the mob there who went on a rampage, we have these pictures coming in of a devotee being beaten by the cops there in Canada.
Yeah, this is the problem with Canadian police. They are now trained and sort of focused on the law-abiding community and the protectors of the law-breaking community, because they are told to de-escalate the situation and thus remove people who might cause escalatory threats. Now, put this into practice. Hindus are perceived to be peaceful and law-abiding because, on average, the stats bear that one out, and Khalistanis are, perceived to be violent extremists. So the Hindu presence is seen as instigating the Khalistani extremists. Now, you might say, aren't they on a Hindu temple? Isn't this the aggression by the Khalistanis? all of that sort of taken at length. It's kind of a police department. They just see a situation and they know that, okay, if we go up to the Khalistanis, they have more resources. They're going to call us racist, call us this. The Hindus don't really have a reputation for fighting back, so it's easier to bully them. And then again, by the Hindus standing up for themselves, they are agitating the Khalistanis in the police mind. So this is the crime to the police, is, well, now they're, look, their presence is making these people angry. So in order to appease these people and to de-escalate, as the manual says, they go and they attack the law-abiding citizens.
That's right.
And this problem, not just the Hindus who face this, but there's an inversion of justice throughout Canada. And this
Absolutely.
is probably the worst example of it.
Absolutely. Be with us, Daniel. Just coming back to you in a moment from now, my colleague Shiv also is back with us. Shiv, in these pictures, a devotee is being beaten up by cops. The government of India has not yet responded, but in the past, the government has come down very heavily on these attacks against Hindus, against these attacks of or instances of vandalism involving temples. What is it that you're picking up from your sources within the government about these developments?
Statements will come and go, Sneha. I think the concern about statements is a separate one. The question now is going to be about what the Indian government is going to do in general about this escalating situation, because this is not a situation that only pertains to Canadians of Indian origin. There is obviously a widespread threat to Canadians of Indian origin who are not these Khalistani cowards. But the Indian government will have to take some kind of action, because this is a delicate situation. As you already know, India has been painted by Canada, for foreign interference as part of the Trudeau government's campaign to divert domestic attention from Chinese interference in Canadian politics and the election system. And therefore, India doesn't have, a lot of leverage at this point of time in terms of what it can openly do. I'm not suggesting that India needs to do anything covert, but I'm basically saying that India will have to work with a diminished High Commission in Canada. Remember, many of its officials have already been, pulled out from Canada at this point of time. The staff at consulates and High Commissions in Canada are already less. There is a threat to them as well directly. I'm told that there was there was an event in Vancouver yesterday where Khalistanis turned up, where an Indian High Commission official was present as well. So these are targeted acts of thuggery and gundaism that are taking place, which could easily escalate out of control. I'm, a couple of senior journalists, friends of mine, currently residing in Canada, Sneha. They tell me that the Hindu community, and let's be very clear about one thing. This isn't just about the Hindu community in Canada. These are about Sikhs. The Khalistanis make up a tiny fraction of the larger, peaceful, law-abiding Sikh community in Canada. Let's be very, very, very clear about that, and 100% clear about that. The Khalistanis are a tiny fraction of drug traffickers and gun runners who receive funding from Pakistan. They've got nothing to do with the Sikh religion. They have nothing to do with the Sikh community in general, which is a large, highly successful community in Canada. They are also threatened by the Khalistanis. So let's be very clear that Canadians of Indian origin, whether Hindus or Sikhs, all stand threatened by this kind of, terrible targeted violence that is taking place. People could easily die because these are thugs who are receiving a paycheck in order to try and escalate things as much as possible. They're receiving amplification from people like Gurpatwat Pannu, who's in the United States right now. He holds dual citizenship of US and Canada, calling for violence against Air India aircraft, calling for boycott, calling for, attacks on temples, etc. So this is a difficult situation. My sense, Sneha, is that there will doubtless be some kind of a statement from the Indian government later today from the External Affairs Ministry or elsewhere. But the real question now is, how is the Indian government going to answer back? Now the ball is in India's court. Remember, the Canadian government, in the wake of what has been happening in Brampton and Toronto and elsewhere, has also labelled India for cyber warfare. They pointed several other different fingers at India. Separately from the United States, Indian companies have been sanctioned, even though that's a separate issue altogether. So there are these many different arrows flying from North America towards India right now, and India will have to deal with them, and it will have to go beyond just a statement.
Well, absolutely. It will, in fact, have to be beyond a statement. Be with us, Shiv. Just coming back to you.